Hello, Dan. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Ingrid, thanks for joining us. We're going to turn things over to you. But before I do that, I do want to do a brief introduction. It was great to read your background and get to know a little bit about your professional career. For those that have joined us, Ingrid is the first female president and CEO of the BC Hotel Association. Ingrid is an industry powerhouse who spent the past 3 decades directly contributing to building the tourism sector across BC and Canada. Her impressive resume spans leadership roles at organizations like Fairmont Hotels and Resorts, Watermark Beach Resort, along with volunteer work and leadership positions on several boards, including Tourism Victoria, Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association, and Destination BC. Today, Ingrid, you're no stranger because we see you lots on in the media. She is channeling her extensive knowledge and insights into supporting and advocating for members of the hotel industry province-wide and leading the hospitality sector out of the pandemic. So, Ingrid, thanks very much for joining us. I'm going to turn things over to you.
Dan, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I just would like to confirm that you can see my PowerPoint and that it's full screen and I can go ahead.
We're awesome. Great. Thanks
so much. So just delighted to be here today as a Kelowna resident. I grew up here. I started in the tourism and hotel industry at a little motel called Beacon Beach Motel, which is where Manteo is today, actually. In the housekeeping department, I was called a chambermaid. So I'm dating myself, but love our community and am delighted at your invitation. So here I am on Okanagan Lake at about 5:30 in the morning, looking for some kokanee, although that's not the right position for the fishing rod at the time. The BC Hotel Association, although it's called a hotel association, we actually represent all accommodators of all shapes and sizes. So that means inns, lodges, motels, hotels, resorts, and all the other iterations of the accommodation sector. We have 17 people on our board of directors, and we actually span the province. And the directors are made up of brands, independent ownership groups, management companies, resorts, both remote, rural, and urban. And I just have 2 slides. This is our first slide that shows the way since the beginning of the pandemic that we represent British Columbia, along with my other provincial partners with our national association, which is the Hotel Association of Canada. 19 months ago, when the pandemic started, which happened to be my 2nd week in this position, we quickly realized this was we needed to collaborate, we needed to partner, we needed to support each other and figure out how to navigate this pandemic and the impact on our sector. Our new federal minister was just announced last week. We're delighted for the first time that we actually have a Minister of Tourism that isn't actually included in a different ministry, as was our minister, Melanie Jolie, who did a great job for us, but she was actually under ISED, which is Economic Development. So not only do we have our own ministry, but he also is the Assistant Deputy of Finance, which is very helpful considering the need that we have for our programs to be extended at least until the spring of 2022. Our priorities for federal advocacy, here's a list. I won't go into great detail. We had some great news last week, which was the CEWS extension and the CRHP, which is the hiring program extension into May of 2022. Given that we're at the end of October and we're really facing 5 months in mostly urban areas and remote areas of very limited demand, considering the borders still remain really, we're not seeing international travel to any degree due to the rapid testing still at the border and the confusing messaging. So we really do need those support programs. We also are working very closely with them on the workforce shortage. And so the myriad of different visas and access to train foreign workers, as well as the Propel program with the Tourism HR Canada. Provincially, we also have a long list of things that we're working for. Number one is our workforce shortage. Our provincial government and our federal government both have the opportunity to acknowledge and support that every community in the country is supported by the accommodation sector and by the tourism sector, and we're completely interconnected. That we have such a workforce shortage at this time will be the single biggest reason that will limit our recovery. So we really need to do a lot of work on that. We also have a submission for the $50 million in the tourism ministry for fixed cost relief, which includes property tax, BC Hydro, and other fixed costs. We're also working very closely with our national counterparts on analyzing the insurance industry and the issues with the skyrocketing prices in 2020, looking to ensure that the renewal rates in 2021 and 2022 are mitigated. We also have the MRDT file and the speculation tax file that are both of urgent discovery with our provincial counterparts. Given that we're in Kelowna, this is the latest hotel occupancy, and it is due to note that we do have a reporting system that we are seeing about between 40 and 50% reporting. So there is some occupancies lacking, but we are tracking both federally, provincially, and with different jurisdictions to really look at the recovery based on occupancy. At the end of every month, we put out a pulse check, very similar to the chamber. And I know that we all just answered the chamber survey to gather not only the state of how are we doing now as small businesses, but also how are we feeling about recovery. So 71% of our sector currently, which is 80,000 rooms and 1,400 properties, are currently looking to hire people. That is an unbelievable number that indicates the degree of the workforce shortage. 84% of properties actually have policy around vaccine passports. We are hearing from guests that are calling that are saying, can you guarantee me that everybody in your property is vaccinated? We're also hearing employees feel more comfortable if they know everybody else is. And so this is a business decision. And we're just reporting out that 84% in fact have policy. The forecast is a bit dire. When we're looking at 40% occupancies, that certainly is nowhere near back to 2019 numbers. This is a slide that supports that work that businesses have done to figure out what policy is best for their business and then the training that is required. And paid sick leave, I believe Ron referred to this. Not only are we partners in the BC Chamber, but also Vancouver Board of Trade, BC Business Council, BC Business, and many other associations, TIA BC, Able BC, really saying now is not the time. Our position is that we have a federal EI program, and sick leave should actually be completely dovetailed into that federal program instead of having an additional provincial program. When we're looking at hiring and your current and what the different opportunities are, we're able to look at each of the avenues for access, either for youth, for training in schools, in making sure that we're amplifying registration for colleges and universities, and that we're also looking at all the different positions, skilled and unskilled, that are relevant to our sector. This is an interesting slide based on the need and the labor shortage. Currently, we have 68.9% of our industry in BC actually applying for the emergency wage subsidy. That doesn't mean they're always successful, because it's based on revenue loss over 2019 by month, whether or not you're eligible. But the other one is the program that provides support for hiring for recovery, in which you actually have 50% of the wages covered. And we have 71% of businesses that are not applying for that, which means that we have a communication opportunity, and it is a reflection of that lack of opportunity to actually have people apply. This is a slide that shows the workforce gap between 2019 and 2021. Our research with Tourism HR Canada indicates that we have permanently lost 30% of our workforce in tourism and hospitality due to a myriad of reasons. It means that 2019, we had a workforce shortage, which was the worst we'd ever endured. And now on top of that, when we're looking for recovery, we actually have 30% more than we had then. So it's really important that not only locally, municipally, regionally, provincially, and federally, that we do everything we can to impact the opportunity to access workforce in order to recover. So to support that, I have a couple of slides here that show the different partnerships that we've developed, and for all different reasons. This is primarily our recruitment partners. Every one of these organizations have been vetted, and we have very specific partnerships with them to focus on recruitment and access to recruitment. And then this next slide is training and mentorship. And again, each of these organizations is a partner with us, and we're rolling up our sleeves and doing everything we can to make sure that the avenues and the access is provided for businesses. And then the mentorship, we're really hearing many people who are currently working in the business would love to either be mentors or be menteed. And so we've developed two really significant mentorship programs. And then, of course, our foreign workers, which has really been a huge access to workforce for us for many, many years. Again, this is a list of organizations that we're actively working with. I'll just point out one here for sake of interest. Talent Beyond Boundaries is an international not-for-profit organization that works with categorizing or cataloging the skills for the 80 million displaced people in this world. So these are people, it could be you and I, they've been displaced because of famine, because of drought, fire, war, climate change. It could be so many different reasons, but they actually are categorizing the skill sets, and it could be from doctors and lawyers to trained housekeepers, to chefs, to people who are really looking for a new life. And I'm very excited about the opportunity to be working with our provincial government and our federal government to ensure that we are, in fact, providing new lives and livelihood for people who are looking for it and are qualified to come. Go2HR, Tourism Industry Association of BC, and myself with the BC Hotel Association and our team are rolling up our sleeves on behalf of industry and leading the workforce strategy for BC. This is an enormous piece of work, but it's critically important, and the timeline is really in a very short period of time. We'll be able to allocate how can each level of government and how can each either visa or training opportunity be maximized so 2022 can be a recovery year. I referenced the insurance challenge in my federal advocacy slide. We have the Canadian Hotel and Lodging Association, which BCHA represents British Columbia, have hired experts to analyze the industry and see how we can provide support, training, and mitigating risk. And then this is one that will mean something to all of you as community citizens. The short-term rental impact in municipalities, along with what the bylaws for each individual municipality has an impact on the affordability and the long-term rental market within each municipality. So we have two partners. One is Reform B&B and the other one is Fair Rules. We did actually have a big win federally where the online travel agents, of which Airbnb and VRBO are two, have to pay not only corporate taxes, but also the federal tax. Now, the importance here is reform B&B, actually do the analysis of long-term rental versus short-term rental, what the market will bear and what the impact of that is. So they're really good partners in providing us not only how to manage that within a community, but how, along with your community, your long-term community plan, how this can all exist together and allow affordability and increase the livability of communities. We have our pillar of sustainability. We're doing an enormous amount of work around sustainability. We have our Go Green program for energy analysis, and I know several of people that are on the call today are participating in that. And then our website is really member resources, and we work so closely with the BC Chamber, and I just want to acknowledge so many of the files and so much of the work that you're doing as an association, we also do at the provincial level, and it's really great to have partners like the local and the provincial chambers. Our industry updates, many of you will be receiving them. They come twice a week. And our media relations and guidance, we've had an enormous uptake on media really looking for us to sort of in layman's terms, every time a new PHO order comes out, what can a business do and what kind of business can do one thing or another. I really acknowledge the limitations on capacity right now for interior health, and it is a challenge. Interior health is such a big area. And a community like Kelowna is quite different than some of the other communities that have lower vaccination rates. So we certainly support there being an opening up of restrictions. Here's our social media handles. Please reach out, and I will share the slide deck after. We're currently engaged in an in-person roadshow, and it's an industry update where we're in Victoria, Kelowna, Penticton, Kamloops, and those dates, and we have really strong registration. We still have availability, so you're more than welcome to join us for that, and it ends with a town hall in person where you can ask any questions that you might have. And then we have our AGMs in Kamloops in November, and of course our upcoming Tourism and Hospitality Conference, March the 9th to the 11th. And I would thank you very, very much. And happy to answer any questions. I don't know if you have any time, but there's my presentation.
We certainly do. I'm going to ask Jeff to join us, come back on camera. Jeff, I don't know if you want to provide a few words after the presentation, and we'll certainly yield to any questions if people want to use the chat or the Q&A function.
Sure. Well, thanks, Dan, and thank you, Ingrid, for a figure-rich presentation. I mean, the numbers are really quite bracing when you hear about a 30% permanent loss of employment and the struggles to fill that gap. And then also, curiously, people not taking advantage of government programs like the CRHP. And I'm wondering if maybe you could just say a few words, how does the CRHP work, and how would businesses in Kelowna that are having these struggles recruiting people access that program? What does it do for them?
Well, I think the story the number really tells, Jeff, is that, and we're hearing this all over the province and in fact all over the country, you will post a position and sometimes nobody applies. Sometimes you'll get two people applying. And so what you would need to do is when you're hiring that person, then there is an application, and this information is on our website along with the parameters of the program. So you can go to bcha.com or bchotelassociation.com, and it'll just show you the parameters of eligibility. The goal of the program is the federal government wants more and more people to go back to work. So now that we're looking at some of the other programs being ended or having ended, it means that EI is going to run out as EI used to run out. And those people, they're hoping also will go and apply for positions. I think the 71% not accessing it also is because we're finding owner operators and business owners currently are completely buried in the business. You know, you have hotel owners that are cleaning rooms and making beds and in the laundry room and trying to check somebody in at the same time because they literally do not have the staff so that they can be working on the business and someone else can be working in the business. And so I think it really amplifies the story that we need to tell.
Thanks for that. Dan, I see we're at time. Are there any questions?
Yeah, this will be a last chance for folks to ask any questions. We will circulate to the slide deck, Ingrid, to all those that have registered. So thanks for providing that. Any personal notes, takeaway? You've had a long career. I shouldn't say that. It makes it sound like you've been around, but a long time in this industry. And any takeaways, last thoughts that you can give? We're trying to be, there's challenges, but we try to be optimistic. And it's great to have you here in our own backyard too, right? Love the picture.
Thank you for that, Dan. Yeah. I always actually use this picture because I love it. And I live in Kelowna. Collaboration and partnership is everywhere right now. And I can say I'm not sure that before the pandemic, everybody was quite so willing to do everything that they could to work together to address issues. And I think that's really extraordinary. So we're all looking for recovery now and believing that the pandemic hopefully can be behind us. It's been a really tough time for the sector.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you and your organization do on an ongoing basis.
Thank you very much.
Helping us through these challenges. Jeff, any final words just to wrap things up? We have no more questions.
No, well, thank Ingrid again. I mean, it's great to have someone local in charge of that BC Hotel Association. And I'll just say, on a positive note, I was trying to get a hotel in Abbotsford a week ago, and we called out 5 hotels, and they kept telling us they're full up, and it turned out there was a concert in town. And so that really showed me that there's an appetite for gatherings, there's an appetite for travel, and events, and capacity really does drive hotel stays. If we can have concerts at Prospera, that will bring people in from Penticton, from the North Okanagan, and we will fill our hotels. But we've got to get those events back on schedule.
Yeah, you're so right, Jeff. It's actually corporate travel, government travel, group travel, tour, international. We need the US to come back. We need those barriers at the border to be removed. And all of those things will ensure that the accommodation sector survives and does much more or much better in the future. But events are such a big part of it. Music, sports, we need to be able to gather. There's no question.
All right, with that said, we have come to the end of our program. Ingrid, thanks very much. Jeff, and
so much.
For the team, thanks all of you for joining us. Thanks for those that have joined us online, tuning in for our quarterly membership meeting. Our next one will be in 2022, so we'll make sure we communicate that to all of you. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.